And we're going to spin right over right now to Democratic strategist Brendan Daly making his top-line debut, a triumphant debut that it is.
This is a big moment,
It is a very big moment. We're marking this. We tried to land him for years. He finally agreed to our request. Brendan, a former advisor to former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Brendan, let's get into this spending debate. You saw Speaker Boehner last night draw this line in the sand. How do Democrats respond to this? Clearly, a lot of people out there want to see budget cuts.
Well, they do. I think that there's one thing for budget cuts, but as Senator Sanders just said so eloquently and passionately, the idea that we're just going to do budget cuts and not try to raise taxes on the wealthy and to solve our debt problem is just not good. It's not really going to happen. And the scale that you were suggesting of $2 trillion, that's not going to happen either. But I do think the president understands and Democrats understand we do have to make some serious budget cuts and in some cases some difficult choices, and there's no question that's going to happen.
But Speaker Boehner's really laid down a marker here by saying that there will be no debt limit increase without this kind of spending cuts to go with it. And he didn't specify the timeline. That's important. $2 trillion in cuts over 50 years could be done.
Right. It could be over a long time, right, exactly.
Right. But if you noticed, the Wall Street Journal editorial, the lead editorial, quoted people close to Boehner and Boehner's office telling them, the Wall Street Journal, that these cuts would be over 5 years. What would that look like?
Well, that would be
$2 trillion over 5 years.
That if you, depending on where you got it from, if you just did it from discretionary funding, you would have to, or even if you did it through entitlements, you'd have to really cut Medicaid drastically, which is already a big problem. You'd have to cut Medicare even more than the Republicans want to do now, which politically they're in very deep trouble from voting for the Ryan budget that made Medicare into a voucher program. And it would cut education, it would cut health care, it would cut environmental programs. I just don't think that's feasible. There are some cuts you can make, and certainly you need to look at the Defense Department. The President has said that. Secretary Gates has said that we need to look at the Pentagon. There are some cuts that we can make across the board here, but really have to do it in a way that's responsible and doesn't slow the growth of the economy. As you know, the economy is recovering, but it's still got a long way to go, and we have to be very careful not to do that and to impede that recovery.
Brendan, I want to ask you about the aftermath of the Osama bin Laden killing. There's been a lot of talk about what this means for our strategy in Afghanistan. When you were up on the Hill, you dealt with this all the time. A lot of Democrats want us out a lot faster than the president does. What is this going to do to the debate over the future of the war in Afghanistan? Is this going to quicken attempts to see a faster withdrawal timeline than the administration may be prepared for?
Well, you might see that. I think you've already seen some on both the left and the right in terms of people concerned about Afghanistan. It's been almost 10 years. This fall will be 10 years, and certainly one of the goals was to disrupt and dismantle Al Qaeda, and it's central to that was to catch Osama bin Laden. So that having happened now, I do think there's going to be some calls for an accelerated timeline. What the president said the other night on 60 Minutes was that he's got a plan in place, and they're starting next July. They're going to start withdrawing down the troops. Whether that's accelerated, I don't know. I think, frankly, it should be looked at, and maybe we could accelerate the timeline.
Certainly some pressure coming from some in the House, Democrats in the House on that. I want to get a quick
Democrats, but also in the Senate as well.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Quick on politics, Brendan. Put you right on the spot here. What are the odds of the Democrats actually being able to retake the House next year?
Well, I think they're decent. It's a big climb. There's no question about that. Actually, I got asked that yesterday, and I said, probably if you had to grade it on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe a 7. Because I think there's a chance you can do that. It's difficult because of redistricting, because of the number of seats that Democrats are doing. We have to win 25. But redistricting has been going actually very well. Fundraising has been going very well. And as I mentioned, that the Republicans are already somewhat on the defensive on this Ryan budget, and I think Democrats are going to continue to pound away at that, which will help with the senior vote.
All right, Brendan, so if yesterday was a 7, you'll give us an 8 here on the program, right?
Yes.
8?
Well,
8 out of 10.
I don't know about that.
Or go back to 6
you will have President Obama on the ticket, which I think will help. He's going to, I think, do very well. I mean, it's not a slam dunk for him to win, but I think he's got a good chance to win, which will help increase turnout as well.
All right. Brendan Daly.
Top line debut. Thanks for
Well done. Twitter.com/Rick Klein, Twitter.com/John Carl.
John Carl, that's the one that matters.
How about that?